Okay, so there we go. Let's begin. Um, First of all, the issue at hand: endless search. um, so wow, did I not expect my Stitch to literally take off and have every archaeologist go after him? But I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
uh, Not surprised he blocked me though. That I'm actually surprised it took him longer to block me than it did. So
What's this guy's name?
well, he goes by endless search. Anna, what's his real name again? I know it's Jake something.
Jake Alman.
Alman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he hasn't blocked me yet either. I don't think I've commented directly any of his stuff, but I commented on his stupid girlfriend's fucking video, and she took that shit down immediately.
yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Anna,
Yeah.
not the Russian archaeologist kid. He's blocked me too. I'd love to punch him square in the face.
Oh, the Russian kid blocked me as well.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. But yeah, this guy's name is Jake Alman. And so he lives in Wilmington. Isn't that what you discovered, Anna? Like Wilmington, North Carolina? Yeah.
So he lives.
People in Wilmington.
Yeah.
I've got people in Wilmington.
Oh, nice.
I know. I have a friend who lives just a couple of hours from Wilmington. But yeah, and so essentially, what he's doing is he's literally digging a hole. That's all he is. He's digging this massive hole with the roots and everything, and then he's scraping up all the dirt and throwing it into a sifter.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then he's saying, even though he's finding, he's finding Native American artifacts, scrapers, pottery. I think I saw some fire-cracked rock in his video, but again, he blocked me, so I can't go back and check. And then he's also finding like colonial or historic. It's hard to tell without actually looking at it. Artifacts like creamware and a button that he claimed was a fucking underwear button.
I could not get over that in the live the other night.
Then,
I was like, I love how he just automatically assumes it's a fucking underwear button, like automatically.
And ceramic spheres, and then he's like, "Oh, the Native American pottery is thousands of years old." Okay, but you're finding it in context with at least historic artifacts, if not colonial artifacts. And he's like, we have no way of knowing this, who these tribes are from, what tribe it's from. Okay, well, for one thing, there like we talked about in the TikTok live, there are 27 federally recognized tribes in North Carolina alone, and there are 8 in that claim ancestral homelands in the Wilmington area, which include the Tuscarora, the Yamasee, the Muskogee Creek, the Lumbee, etc., etc. And the thing is, like one of the arguments keep making is like, okay, well, like say, what if this is a site that's connected to, say, considering the possible pre-colonial context, it could be connected to the Yamasee War, to the Tuscarora War, it could just be connected to contact during the intermediate period between the Yamasee War and then like the Revolutionary War. Yes, Anna.
I actually spoke with the Dippo of the Lumbee today. Kevin Melvin, great name, love his name, super great guy. He is very intrigued. He is very like, whoa, let's get this guy if we can. He said, you know what? Even if we can't get him on anything, if this is at least a way to show people, don't be like Jake, don't be an ass like Jake.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, Kevin, I agree. He's a bad influence. That's the thing, is like, it's not even just that he's looting sites, because he is just one person and he's doing a lot of damage, but it's not just that. He's encouraging millions of people to go out and do this themselves.
He's doing it for clout. And then his girlfriend comes on and it's like, ooh, how much is this worth? And then she's like, oh, he doesn't sell it.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, he doesn't sell it, which I don't believe for a fucking minute. You cannot tell me that he hasn't sold some of it.
Oh, he absolutely has. There's no reason she wouldn't have brought that up if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay. here's my background with this kid. I went toe to toe with him in 2021.
I heard about this.
Yeah, I heard about
In the beginning. It was him, and it was the guy who owns Sierra Gordo, the silver town in Nevada. Now, I responded to both. The video that sticks out in my head is is Jake putting a heavily corroded pocket knife, folding knife, which I know what those look like. I've found plenty of them in my excavations. Putting it in white vinegar
Oh no!
and watching it foam to clean it.
Oh.
Now, this has nothing to do with the fact that it might have bone handle, it might have ivory, it might have mother of pearl, it might have wood. Nothing, no matter that it has brass pieces and iron and steel. He puts it all together. At that time period, he had an Etsy store where he was stitching up arrowheads with fancy wire and these little buttons and stuff, and he was selling stuff. And I actually found on his Instagram, because I went through and flipped through, a coin mold, a Confederate counterfeit Union nickel mold.
Wow.
Sold in big letters in the caption. Oh, I have it.
You mean he lied about selling stuff, or she lied about him selling stuff?
He's lied about selling stuff.
Yeah.
He's claimed he's had a permit, which, would you like me to read to you the regulations for getting a permit in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I am curious.
Yeah.
I read them the other day. Did you know to get a permit, you have to present a project plan with a budget?
I didn't
Full
see a piece of paper
design.
or a damn clipboard.
And this is
in
on
that
private
video.
property. And this is for on private property.
Oh.
Because there's a recognition that so much of North Carolina is private property that the state is like, hey, we have this entire program. If you guys want to have this done correctly on your property, it can get done.
Yeah.
Not a problem. The thing, though, is that the end, the artifacts stay with the landowner once they're excavated. Any of those sites that get a site number, that stuff can't be sold.
Yeah.
It can be donated to a museum, but guess what? It has to have all of the respective paperwork that goes with it. And then just like every other permit in every other state and territory, you have to turn in every single bit of your data and information to the state. And if the state goes, you didn't cross this T, or as I found out, they can change their mind about everything. I can tell you about that later. Thanks, Montana Shippo. If they change their mind and say, hey, why didn't you follow this? I recorded a telegraph line from the 1870s around Phillipsburg. I walked from one border of BLM to the next border of BLM. I stopped because it was private and it was Forest Service. And I didn't need to go any further. They kicked back a 97-page report on that site alone because we didn't continue onto Forest Service or private. They decided this past August. I wrote the report in July of 2021. So it's been waiting on their desk. Yeah. I now have to go back. I have to take some more pictures. No, we're the Forest Service has the other side recorded. Literally talk to them. Literally, here's Sid, here's Jody. Talk to them. We've already talked about it. And the project in question was a stock tank. They were leveling a spot for a stock tank within 20 yards of this power line, or the standing telegraph line. And they were just leveling this spot for a stock tank. There's a spring nearby with that they just literally have a plastic, like 3-inch black plastic hose run into the stock tank for free range cattle. That was it. There was no effect whatsoever, and we didn't have to record the whole bloody thing. Mile and a half of walking. for a 80-foot. I would give it an 80-foot boundary to not go in, or area of disturbance. That's the truck backing up with the tank on it, the tractor lifting it off. You know, they were like, "Oh, you have to go back and do this." So if they don't like your report, they kick it back instantly.
Yeah, same here in Georgia. So.
I think North Dakota is like that too, because the project I had, it was like a 6-month, 22,000 acre wind farm, and we had so much. They were like, "No, you got to go visit like 150 sites."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's not just the sites that you find. You have to monitor all of the sites, even remotely nearby.
Yeah. Does it mean that for the last 3 years those cows haven't been able to get water?
What was that, Rob? You kind of.
Does it mean that for the last 2 years that those cows have not been able to get water?
Oh no, they've been able to get water. They've been able to get water. This stock tank is being put in as an effort to mitigate the wetland damage that the cows do around the spring. So they have water. It's just chewing up the ground around the spring. And we have a new hydrologist who just started working in our office. We had a guy, his name was Flood. He retired. And then we didn't have a hydrologist for a year. And now this new lady came in and she's like, we need to fix. She's very, very, very gung-ho about fixing all of the free-range cattle stuff. Because the cows aren't supposed to be walking in the spring. A lot of the stuff, at least a lot of the stuff here, if you're a rancher and you have a lease with the Bureau of Land Management, there is two ways to do it. You have a lease where you 100% foot the bill. You do your fence, you maintain your water, you have to report to us essentially and say, hey, here's everything that's being done. Or you have us do all of that and you just have to make sure that you're following, that you get everything in on time and that your cows don't cause any problems. And if you get to a point, if you get up there and a tree is fallen on the jackleg fence that keeps the cows out of the pond or out of the creek, you call us immediately so we can go fix it. This is one of those, Claire has come in and she's like, so I don't even want to deal with this. We need to put a water tank in. Then, so that area around the spring is getting fenced off with a jackleg fence that the deer can get through, elk can get through, every single animal except a cow can get through it. And that'll allow that to kind of come back. I know that in some spots in that, along that drainage, they've actually have a 10-year plan. They're going to machine it. They're actually going to trench it out with a trencher to cut a new channel along the old channel where the cows have mashed it down. And then they're going to run a jackleg fence all the way down the mountain to the creek to keep the cows out. So within 10 years, that whole landform will look as it did before the cows were running on. That's the plan.
Okay, with Jake though, at what point did he say that he had a permit? Was it for the video that was stitched? Because when I watch it, it says I got permission to sift, but at what point did he say he had?
I think he said it in the comments, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
So there's a whole okay. So let me go over my run-in with Endless Search and his cronies. Now, Anna has my screenshots. So after I do my last stitch, I just stitch the comments where they're like going like, oh, we have finder keepers rules or some ridiculous horseshit.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's what we all said.
Bullshit.
Anyway, because they're all 4-year-olds.
Yeah, but anyway, so I stitched all those screenshots and such. And now he was saying similar things to what I'm about to talk about in his comments. So this wasn't exactly Endless Search who came to me with this, but Endless Search was saying the exact same things, which are in the screenshots. So anyway, so after I do that, suddenly I get one of Endless Search's like Goonies or followers or what have you come in, and he's like, he's not looting, he's doing it on private property, and I'm like, okay, yes, he is. It is looting. He's plowing through an archaeological site to get to artifacts for his own collection. That is the definition of looting. And the guy was like, it's not unethical. And I'm like, yes, it is. It's unethical. And then he came to me after I mentioned NAGPRA, and he's like, tried to use NAGPRA against me, saying, but NAGPRA only applies to state, federal, and tribal land. And I was like, yes and no, because the tribes, if they really want to, can come to you and get you anyway. And then he said he pulled the definition of looting like in a riot. Like, he's like, no, that's not looting. Looting is when you're out in a riot and they're stealing things from a store.
No.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with archaeology at all.
That's just looting different things.
Yeah.
Right.
Looting has one definition.
Yeah.
And
It
it
is
applies
theft.
to many things.
It's theft.
Yeah.
It's theft.
It's theft. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think what the problem is a lot of lay people don't understand that when they go down the creek bank and take potsherds and take arrow points and things like that, that what they're doing is they're taking from a potential site.
Right.
And
Right.
this needs to be iterated and reiterated for a layperson
Well,
over and over again what looting is.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I agree.
unfortunately, Endless Search goes to, or at least he claims to go to, a community college that does have archaeology classes.
About that.
And I do too, but
Who's teaching that class?
I don't know. Well, so my thing is, as I'm probably sometime this week going to contact that that community college he goes to and try to get in contact with his professors, because I guarantee you they don't know he's doing it, because I really highly doubt they would condone it. You know,
Anna has looked into that quite a bit. Anna, you looked at the classes and stuff. Do we know what he's studying?
Okay, here's the thing. So I showed a video where I actually was on the catalog of Cape Fear Community College. Okay, that is in Wilmington, North Carolina. They have a total of 6 classes that are under the umbrella of anthropology. 4 of them are either cultural, linguistic, bio, and general anthropology. 2 of them are archaeology, and I believe that it is a field school. That is all there is.
yeah,
That is not a problem for them. That's and they don't even.
Discipline.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
I'm wondering if field school that he was participating with and not.
At that plantation site you're saying, do you think that might have been his field school? I was wondering that too, but it was like in January. So I was like, that's a really random time, I guess, in my head.
Well,
About the field school, he's not in charge of the field school. There very well could be a restriction on photos and social media until they go through the program.
Right.
Most of the time, the projects I've been on, they won't even let you publish photos until the report has been sent to the state and the SHPO.
Yeah.
Been on projects
Or
with
at all.
complete
Exactly.
NDA.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Everything that comes out of my office here is proprietary. I know that sounds, that's
You work for an
said about that. I work for the Bureau of Land Management, Department of the Interior. So, but it's so restricted that forestry across the building, which is, I don't know, 80 feet, they don't get to see anything we're working on. And we work hand in hand with forestry. If we hand them if they're doing a timber sale and we hand them a polygon on a map and we send them the shapefile for that polygon, they don't get to know anything about it. Don't go there. Don't drive the machines in it. Don't leave it alone.
As far as
Okay.
the Bermuda Triangle, stay away.
Yeah. You know, the machines can't go in there, or like in the salvage project that I did this year, in a forest fire area, the machine, the road, there's a road that goes right through the middle of this site. It's a historic road that was there when that site was built. The machine can sit on the road, and it can reach in as far as the machine will reach, which is I think 25 feet. But it has to cut the trees off at 3 feet above the ground instead of putting the cutting head on the dirt and cutting. They have to cut them 3 feet high, and they can't lay the tree down in the area. They have to move it and put it in the road. That was the restriction.
I found his professor.
Oh, you found his professor?
I did. Her name is Rachel Satzman.
Okay.
I'm gonna
And she
Google
looks
it.
at, huh? Yeah, she's the archaeologist there at the university. So they have one archaeologist, and it looks like they have one anthropologist. I don't know what their subfield is. So yeah, Rachel Satzman. And I guess that the degree, if he's getting one, would be in social and behavioral sciences, which makes some sense, but there's no like direct anthropology degree. And I looked through the whole catalog. There is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, yeah, and then you know he's going to the. If he did go to those classes, he did it to learn how to loot better. That's all he did.
Yeah.
And the irony that he's saying he's an archaeology student, then calling Morgan an elitist for having a degree in archaeology.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not a thing that's unfounded in archaeology culture right now. I know quite a few students who think they're above getting a degree because they have more experience already.
Oh.
It's that Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh, you mean like Rome doesn't exist, lady?
Yeah.
Oh, she's
I know.
such a sweet one too.
Yeah, but yeah, he's and now we know he lied about doing it only on private property, thanks to his idiot of a girlfriend.
His very sweet girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we ever get a copy of that video of him with the musket?
I have a picture off of his.
Yeah, it was just a picture, clearly inside someone's house, and they got it from a waterway. I am absolutely shocked that damn thing did not fall apart completely.
I think that I found that video of them.
Oh.
If you have that video, save it.
Yeah.
One of the things that has come up with my responses, I've had 2 people reach out to me. One is a law enforcement officer for the Forest Service in Northern California who just so happens to know some people in the Forest Service office in North Carolina.
Uh-oh.
The other person responded to me because I said the waterways are either under state or federal regulation. I don't know which is which because I'm not in North Carolina. To which this guy responded to me with the major waterways are Army Corps of Engineers. Everything else is run by the state, falls under the jurisdiction of the Fish and Wildlife Service. And anything below high water is part of that. So when he's mudlarking, he's in violation.
Yeah.
What's considered high water?
The highest point the
in
water
Arizona.
gets at flood season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
in the
that's
spring,
what they mean.
the highest point that it reaches.
That's what they mean when they say wet beaches. Then, okay.
Yep. And the public land use, definitely in Montana and the western states, I don't know exactly what it is on the East Coast, but you have a buffer of 30 feet above high water as a lane of travel. So if you're walking above the highest water mark, you can walk through someone's backyard. They can't get on your case because it is a public right-of-way. So that 30-foot buffer
Is state.
is also is beholden to the state rules, even though it's under private ownership.
Interesting.
But anything that comes out of the water is off the table. He can't anything, bottle, musket, the only thing that's exempt there is fossils. And if it's a dinosaur fossil, doesn't matter. The government, the feds have jurisdiction over dinosaur fossils everywhere in the country. The mammal fossils, shark teeth, no one cares. I think you can pay $25 for someone to take you out in a boat and you can go find them.
No thanks.
Can't you isn't it published either on the Park Service or BLM? I'm really not sure which one has it on their website, but you can, for not for profit and in small amounts for personal collection, collect fossils, rocks, and plants on public land.
You can collect invertebrate fossils.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fossilized wood, crystals, stone like chert and quartz and stuff.
Unworked.
Yeah.
Unworked. 25 pounds or less a day. You can't sell it. You can't trade it. It's for your personal use.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for the National Park Service on St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands for 4 months this past year, and I wasn't even allowed, not even joking, I was not even allowed on National Park Service beaches to take a shell for myself. It is not allowed. Like, for some reason, I don't know if that's the case with all national parks, but that's at least what I know. So if he was in a national park, he would have, all hell raining down on him. So
there's enough people I've seen on TikTok and social media who do the shark teeth, the megalodon teeth in North Carolina, to where there's certain areas that I think the state has been like, yeah, go ahead. Because if anybody who's a professional in the field of paleontology or anything comes down and says, hey, what's this? They're restricted to a waterway.
Yeah.
To the point of there is no questioning that. But I also found out that apparently small man-made irrigation waterways are under the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers or the state.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so
I
that's
didn't know
interesting.
that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I need to figure that out for New Mexico because we have something called acequias, which range up to being 300 to 400 years old.
I hate reporting acequias. I'm sorry. They're terrible.
They're very difficult.
And I challenge you with check dams. Hillside check dams.
Pair of CCC check dams.
No. Holcomb check dams.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
6 to 7 rocks. 6 to 7.
Oh no.
Every 10 feet, 20 feet, 5 feet, doesn't matter. My very first job, I recorded 612. It was fantastic because once it actually was explained how they worked, and the fact that there was a project done in Tucson that they set check dams up like the indigenous people had for thousands of years, and they restored the aquifer in 1 year by 6%.
Huh.
With just check dams, slowing the water down on the hillside.
That in there.
I was pretty impressed by that.
That's cool. But yeah.
They're rancheras stepped agriculture stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting development, Archeo Wolf. That's hopefully that'll.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. And I see you're trying to say.
Okay, so no, you're good. So I just want to get a clarification. With that Etsy page that Jake had, was it clear that he was saying that they were in fact made of points, or was he saying that he flint-knapped them himself?
Like on his Etsy.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, there was nothing. I remember there was one that said it was like 5,000 years old.
Oh my god.
Okay. Does he still have the FD? Does anyone know?
I don't know. He blocked me a while ago.
Well, let's check it out.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Because for one thing, we already know his method of dating, air quotes, the artifacts is incredibly fucking faulty. Like it's, for one thing, like, I doubt he even knows that, like, sites like projectilepoints.net and shit exist to date points anyway, let alone any of the different guidebooks for the various states.
Clearly not if he thought that pottery that he was, pulling out of around colonial times was undateable.
Yeah. Even though it was clear it had clear designs on it that could be dated.
Right, yeah, it was a trademark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and really, a couple of those scrapers and bifaces could have probably been dated, that I saw. So,
oh yeah.
Again,
they might have been able to get some sort of molecular material off them to test if you didn't wash them.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, there are guidebooks and websites like projectilepoint.net that I used thoroughly for one of my research papers to date points.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, we don't know how to date these.
Do you remember what the FD name was called, Archaeo?
Yeah, trying to find anything on his Instagram.
And somebody made a comment like about, hey, you should try to like sell. Would you ever consider selling stuff? And he goes, I would never sell artifacts.
I saw that too in the comments.
Yeah, that's a flat fucking lie.
Yeah.
Okay, so I literally Googled Jake Allman Etsy, and the first thing that came up was North Carolina vintage pottery.
Oh my god.
So I don't know if this is actually him, but that's the first thing that came up.
Well, if you can find like
that's the thing is that
if you can find a profile picture,
Okay, hold on. 576 real extra large megalodon shark teeth.
Okay.
Extra large. Huh?
Extra large.
Extra large, huh?
Yeah, he's yeah.
Nope, this isn't him. This is a Paul, not a Jake.
Okay. Well, that's another issue for maybe.
Do you happen to remember the name of his Etsy when you were looking at that?
I don't. I'm seeing if I can find it here. Because I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot of it a billion years ago.
I think I remember you doing that, but I'm not sure.
The internet is a strange place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he deleted it once he started to actually get like a following. Unless actually, Archaeologist, when was it? Like, how far along was he with his like followership when he still had that Etsy?
500,000.
Oh, yeah.
The moment I went toe to toe with him, just like Dane, I got hounded by all of his little shitbird friends going, he's not doing this, you're this. And it's like, they're all like 16. Yeah. So, because I have this thing about dealing with underage people on the internet, block. I didn't argue, I just was like, click, block.
Yeah.
And this one kid made like 12 accounts to come and harangue me.
Yeah.
And because of this, I think I put my account on private for a couple weeks after that, just because I don't need some little snake underage dumb shit going, you're saying naughty things to me. And
yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, let's see here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah, and him and that Russian archaeologist kid are friends. I didn't know that until I did some sleuthing on his like social media, and they have like pictures that they've posted together. I mean, I was trying to go all of his friends' like social media to see if I could get videos of him doing ground disturbing activities that were not like obviously legal. But yeah.
Even just today on his Instagram story, he posted somebody else who is also now metal detecting. He's like, check out this dude. And it's like another guy who's just starting on Instagram to, loot. And so that's just like what irks me is he's encouraging all these other people to do this. Where do you dig? How do you dig?
And that's the issue. And then of course our videos like all my video replies to him were deleted. He deleted them from his thing. I mean, it's whatever. I my videos are still up on TikTok, and I have, and a couple of them after his girlfriend did the whole no one cares better than us. Now, how much does this artifact cost video? In a lot of the videos that I've done about him, I've tagged her in it, be like, hey, you're a piece of shit, It's like,
well, can we talk about how, like, on his bio, he literally says he's like, I'm pretty sure it says he's like an archaeological enthusiast, and then right underneath it, he says, go buy a metal detector.
And
yes,
the thing
and that link is gone.
Yeah,
because I was going to send a letter to his sponsor.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, you don't have to be an archaeologist to love archaeology. I have a good friend who's not an archaeologist who loves archaeology, but he goes to field schools and doesn't take artifacts home with him. He has an intense respect for the field of archaeology, and every field school that I went with him, he was just, he loved it, but he's like, yeah, they take it back to the university or the museum or whatever the fuck, organization is doing it.
What'd you find it? What'd you find, Anna?
The link is still up on his TikTok. I made a backup just like so I could snoop. And the link is still up. I sure did. I don't care. You can't see it, but it's detectingclay.com is his sponsor.
Oh wow.
Detecting Clay. Yeah. And then I think like in his Instagram, it says like go buy a metal detector, and it's just like which I think you just said, Mandy, and it's just like, oh my god.
Well, and that's one the big massive issue is he has a massive following, and he's going to a community college, taking archaeology classes and going to field schools so he can be a better fucking looter, so he can sneak onto these construction sites and this supposedly private property.
Save artifacts that are going to be destroyed by shitty, rich housing developments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the way, the rich, shitty housing developments have to tie in to county water and county sewer and county electrical, which is under the jurisdiction of the county, which is under the jurisdiction of the state.
Yeah.
And then,
by the way,
so Mia, the girlfriend, I kind of snooped a little bit on her. She did like a tour of her house. And it's funny, I made this joke the other day in the live, and I said, oh, I bet she is one of those people living in one of those shitty plasticky suburban houses. Oh, she sure is. And guess what kind of car she drives? Guess what kind of car she drives?
Oh, hold on.
BMW.
Does she drive a Camry?
Not a Camry.
Porsche?
Tesla.
BMW, Porsche. She drives a fucking Porsche. She is 20 years old and she probably driving a freaking Porsche. Entitlement?
I'm sorry.
I bet you she didn't buy it.
No.
No, daddy bought it or sugar daddy bought it.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling
I'm going to go with sugar daddy, and she's willing to post some videos up on TikTok. She's probably willing to do some other shit.
Yeah, if you
does Jake know about the sugar daddy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or does the sugar daddy buy all of Jake's toys too?
That blows my mind that they would sit there and they would have all these material possessions. They would go out and steal from literally other cultures and then try to sell them off for more of a profit and then go, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier to someone, is that this is that thing where you ask yourself, like, who owns the past? And of course, he is a part of that horrible mentality that, oh, I'm a white man, so I own all the past,
Yeah.
It's got that same
a good point to interject about like what the Conservancy does, because like literally we had an incident here in New Mexico where there was a housing development being made out in Santa Fe, and they came across a complex a huge complex of sites. And the developers, instead of going and doing the right thing, actually hired one of the shady state archaeologists, the ones who were willing to go behind without permitting and do the actual digging. Somebody knew about it, and they also knew the Conservancy regional director, and they go, hey, did you hear about all the stuff that they're pulling up over off so-and-so? And Jim was like, what? And it was like, yeah, they're pulling out like full pieces of pottery from so-and-so time period. And he was like, that's not an authorized project right now. I know for a fact because I was just over there dealing with that developer like a month and a half ago. Turns out this man had gotten 4 whole rooms done. 4 whole rooms done before they actually were able to stop him. And the rest of it was actually like the Conservancy was able to step in, have the developer go, look, you cannot continue doing anything until we now mitigate the rest of this site. So they had somebody go in and finish legally excavating the site, put everything back, and then the Conservancy actually got it. And now it sits fenced off, completely unmanaged because we're letting everything grow back, and it is owned by the Conservancy in the middle of this housing development.
The Nature Conservancy.
No, the Archaeological Conservancy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I work for them. I'm the new regional representative. So you're actually in my region.
Awesome.
So we're actually planning a trip to Arizona and Texas and Oklahoma because I gather that there's been some stuff that's like just not been looked at for a while. So now that we're under some new management, we have a new management plan.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and it, you know, and that's exactly, and you know, like with my job, we have to do similar stuff like that to make sure people don't get into, you know, our stuff because my job is our main clients is the Department of Transportation, so we, you know, yeah, so of course we have to worry about all that stuff as well, and of course people will try to come back behind and come in. So yeah, so.
Dane, you're familiar with Bartow County, Georgia, right?
Yes, I'm like 5
or at least
minutes from it.
Okay, so what I wish we could do, for those who aren't familiar, Bartow County is where we have the Etowah Mounds. It's a really important place for Georgia. I'm from Georgia, and Dane lives in Georgia, so I think Alexandria, she told me where she's at in Georgia. I won't say because I think she was going to keep that private, but also Alexandria, you're here. If you want to talk, please talk. I want to hear if you have anything. But I wish, because Bartow County has very, very, very strict laws regarding even private property and how you develop and things that you do. And it's kind of, I think, mirrors in a way how things are over in the UK. Even in the UK, you know, they have a lot stricter laws. I don't really know the ins and outs of them because it was really crazy watching how many UK archaeologists were like, what is going on? Why is this guy allowed to do this? This is messed up. And we're like, welcome to the Wild Wild West, you know? Yeah. And so I wish that we could look at Bartow County and some of these other counties that know these like cultural resources need to be protected, and so they took the time to actually write stricter laws. And I feel like that just needs to be federal. Like, I don't know, I know that that's like a pipe dream, but I want it to happen, and I will work on it if I can.
Here in La Jolla in San Diego County, we've come across so many burials that I have monitored people digging a pool in their backyard, and I also know monitors who have watched people putting in trees in their yard because, and honestly, that's the way it should be in some places for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think that they would do stuff like that, but like I was living in Vegas over the last year, and literally right before, like a few months right before I left, I was working up in Tahoe. My dad saved a newspaper clipping for me, and it was a housing development right outside the Tule Springs Fossil Bed, which is a huge national monument in Las Vegas on the outskirts. And Las Vegas is so overgrown. I mean, like, first of all, they're on like body number 6 from Lake Mead, so I don't know how we still have water. They just keep pulling mob stories out of the lake, so I'm just not really sure how much longer the city actually has. But they keep also building on these preserves. We have Red Rock that's being encroached upon by larger housing developments, as Mia wants to call them. And then we have Twilly Springs, which has also been built upon and built upon. And I feel like people lose sight of the fact that these areas aren't just super concentrated. They're just a concentrated area that we could find the majority of this stuff. They're probably much more spread out than we can actually understand or grasp, just because of flow and geography and water and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So they were developing this backyard of this pool, right? And they're digging out and they come across bones. And it's not just any bone. It is a full-size skeleton of a 14,000-year-old prehistoric horse lying in the backyard of this fucking house.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Should I say this out loud?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had somebody in my comments about the horses.
Oh, yes.
Horses walked on 2 legs when they left the Americas, and they evolved to be on 4 legs everywhere else.
I'm sorry.
That's news to me.
Well, yeah.
Just saying.
That's yeah. I've heard
I will say that I ran away from the horses in the Americas thing because I didn't want to deal with it. It was a hand grenade.
They're a newly quadrupedal species. That's news to me.
Well, you know, somebody threw out there that there's a study being done that shows they were here the whole time. And
oh, I know who you're talking about. The thing is, even other indigenous archaeologists, I've talked with a couple, and yeah. There's yeah, it's a big issue. Essentially, like, so even the way one indigenous archaeologist put it to me, he's like, I am surprised that her advisors allowed her to make that study.
Allowed the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I took the time to read the paper and killed my brain cells because it was...
Oh, I read the paper, and then the first article I found about the paper that wasn't from like a news channel is from a cup of Joe. I can't remember the guy who wrote it. It is a criticism and a breakdown of the problems in the paper.
Yeah.
Didn't tear the paper apart. Didn't say, oh, she's absolutely wrong. It pointed out that she was using people like David Patton, who's a creationist, or the Mormon Church, or the guy who thinks the intaglios outside of Blythe, California, are horses. And I look at that and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't draw in Native American, but that's a mountain lion, just like it's been, recorded as a mountain lion by the Gila.
Yeah.
By the Gila. They said this is a mountain lion.
Yeah.
They're on I-10.
And then right off the side of the road, right? Like, you literally pull off the highway and they're right there. They have like several of them fenced off, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They're within 500 yards of the road. I don't think you can't go on them. They are fenced off pretty far away from them. But yeah, you can see them from the road. You stand on top of your car, you can see them definitely, you know. Yeah. So, but one of the things that he pointed out in his breakdown was that one of the people she cited found the remains of an equine in a cave during an excavation. They were on the surface. If they weren't on the surface, they were in maybe a centimeter deep dirt. It was only a couple of like foot bones, and he got them carbon dated and all this stuff. And the longest that they had been there was about 600 years, which puts them right in the picture of colonial introduction of the horse.
Yeah.
And with all of that data cited in the report, cited in her paper, there is then the rest of the citation is, the guy said, I don't believe it. They're 3,900 years old. Flat with the thing standing in front of him. It's like that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy What are these things? Amulax batteries, Arbulary batteries. That is nothing what I said.
Nothing like what it said.
Yeah.
And it was just this breakdown of like the DNA work for these horses that she has on her property has not been substantiated. There's no actual write-up or anything. She doesn't have any citations in that paper, I believe, from actual equestrian, wildlife bio, veterinary medicine, anybody who are experts, quite frankly, on horses, regardless of what they are. There's no mention of how the record, the archaeological record of, or the fossil records of horses stop at 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
The only evidence that any humans in the Americas did anything with horses more than eat them is from Bluefin Cave in Alaska, which is 24,000 years old, and there's a piece of a horse jawbone that's been inscribed with line work.
Yeah.
So they ate it, and then they used it as a drawing board.
Yeah.
She cited a translation versus the actual source, and the translation is from a white guy citing another white guy. And from the original Spanish, they're talking about how there was somebody of importance being held up, not on horseback, like being held up, watching from the shore. Last I checked, if you want to see from far out, you pick up the smallest person in the group, you hoist them on your shoulder, and they can see further.
Yeah.
So the horse thing became, how do I say, well, no, here's what this is? Because one, the person writing the paper saying that, yes, this is indigenous. Second, she's a woman. And it's like, I'm sorry, but this is a hand grenade.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been the same way because I've seen it come around again on TikTok lately. So.
And the other thing that I kind of was like, had to cringe at, and I actually stopped following him, is Notorious Cree. Who does the dancing, the hoop dancing?
Yeah.
He did one where he cited Cerruti Mastodon.
Well, and he didn't cite him directly, but he cited another indigenous person who apparently wrote something about the Cerruti Mastodon, that being evidence of humans being, in the U.S. 130,000 years ago.
Yeah, but
I haven't read that.
San Diego, you know more. That's in your backyard.
I actually got to go see the artifacts. They're at the Natural History Museum, so I have my own pictures of the Cerruti Mastodon and the I shouldn't say artifacts. The artifacts.
The rocks that just so happen to be.
Yeah, the
broke rocks. So
one of the things I have seen happen is bears breaking open large moose and elk bones by like pressing them on rock.
Yeah.
Which, wouldn't that create a similar spiral fracture at the point where the rock is being pushed?
And we have that giant short-faced bear. I mean, if you have seen that thing in person, that thing is massive.
They stand on their back legs and they're taller than a woolly mammoth at the shoulder. I'm like...
Well, not only that, the supposed flake artifacts. There was a paper, I forget who authored it, but there was a paper a couple years back where the person talked about, the author talked about how horses, when they're grooming their hooves on rocks, the shatter of the rocks can have a tendency to look like, somebody was touching on stone tools. So his whole point in the article was like, of course, not that horses are developing a stone age. It's just like, hey, we need to be more careful when claiming that something is a stone tool if there's no other artifacts around it, because this is a case. And you know what existed in the Americas 130,000 years ago? Horses. I'm not saying that horses made those tools, but I'm just saying it's something to keep in mind.
Well, they just had an article that came out about some tools that were supposedly 50,000 years old, but now they're thinking that they were just made by capuchin monkeys and not humans. And obviously there weren't monkeys here, but...
Well, they have evidence of, I don't remember where it is or where I saw it, but I know I saw it a few years ago, and it was a video, and they have, evidence of what are those little tiny bush babies? The little tiny bush baby monkeys that were being hunted by a different type of monkey, and they were using a spear. They were sharpening the end of a stick by biting it off, and they were using it to corner the bush babies into like hollows, and then they were stabbing the shit out of them, and they were using spear. That's like tool use, basically.
Yeah.
Birds do that though.
I know.
Technically.
Yeah, that's right.
I just saw an article that said which animals are entering their Stone Age.
Yeah.
Ravens.
Yeah.
Ravens. Oh, they're so smart.
Yeah.
There was an experiment done in Yellowstone because somebody was observing ravens opening the back flaps on snowmobiles in the wintertime and like pulling stuff out looking for food. The guy went out there and zip tied the zippers shut on his pack, and he came out and the zippers were still open. And he set up a game camera and he watched them, and the raven figured it out to the point where he took the zipper tab and he twisted it until it bound the zip tie and broke it.
Nice.
And got to the point where the moment it landed, snap open.
Huh.
Well, I mean, even that bear you mentioned using the rock is a clear example of using another item.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like a simple. Somebody accidentally figured it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's a learned behavior.
Yeah. Well, you know, and even if we were to entertain that a human species was here 130,000 years ago, the most probable cases would not be Homo sapiens. They would be either whatever remnants of Homo erectus were left, or like say Homo heidelbergensis or Homo denisovus, or etc. etc. You know, and we don't have evidence of that.
More evidence.
Yeah.
There would be way more evidence than a couple of broken bones from a construction site in San Diego.
Yeah.
You know, because I've read numerous things on that too, and what's funny is that I've never seen mention of flake tools or flake stone at all. It always points out the fact that there is an amazingly good lithic source less than 4 miles away that you would have used, and yet there's nothing. And it also points out that they can't say that the machine didn't do it. You know, the rocks that have any sort of percussion on them, the machine could have moved them because it was a highway project.
Yeah.
And then you know, none of the other animals found around Cerruti Mastodon show that they were butchered either.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like the Solutrean hypothesis, where it's like, hey, we pulled these points out of the bay, and you know, we think they came from Europe.
You know what's funny about that is if you give, I mean, what it's like the pyramids. What is the easiest pile of rock? Pyramid.
Yeah.
What is the easiest way to stab something? A pointed thing. The pointed shapes exist all over the world, and we didn't have to communicate with each other to figure them out.
The same goes for a bow, because bows were developed independently all over the place. Emma, you're trying to say something?
Sorry, I wanted to see if I had a few questions. And I'm sorry, I'm loving this conversation, but I wanted to pull it back really quick. Two things. Okay.
Yeah.
So, no, it's good. This is what happens when you put a bunch of archaeologists in a room. We're all going to want to, like, kind of trail off.
Especially when we're talking about a subject we don't want to, but we got to.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, you know, looking at some of the videos from Jake's profile, I don't necessarily know if the places where he is collecting from are entirely identifiable. Sometimes he does state that he's at Wrightsville Beach or, like, a beach, but he doesn't always show exactly where he is. Pretty good at always just kind of like honing in on an artifact. But because there's clearly water, can they do something? That's my question.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Especially the videos where he specifically states that in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's And that is a waterway that is, if it can be navigated by a boat, this is what the Florida kid, Russian archaeologist kid, tried to argue with me. If it can be, actually, Florida archaeology guy responded with if you can be in the creek in a kayak, which only has a draft of about 3 inches, it's considered a navigable waterway, and it's under the jurisdiction of the state. So, yeah. Here's the thing about this, though, when it comes to Jake and his looting, and this goes back to something that I experienced when I was a teenager, and it's on the books here with the Fish and Game. If you drive through a check station and you have an animal that has a restriction on it, like you cannot shoot mule deer bucks in the area I live unless you have a permit, and they only put out a special drawing tag for those, like 50 a year. So if you shoot one and they go, "Where'd you get this?" and you tell them, "Oh, I got it over here," if they think that you poached it, they'll make you they will make you take them to the gut pile. You have to return to the site where you gutted the animal so they can GPS it and make sure that you're within the hunting area that shows that you are that you have the ability to harvest that animal there. In his videos, because we've all pointed this out, how he's not doing the job correctly.
Yeah.
He can't say that. He can say he's on private all he wants. Unfortunately, he's not doing the data collection to show that he is.
Yeah.
So even if it comes down to where he gets to walk out there with the state archaeologist and the sheriff, he has to walk to every single spot where he's pulled artifacts.
Yeah.
I personally, as much as I hate what he's doing, I would personally love it if, he walked to being in actually somebody's backyard and it was legal to do.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
I doubt he would have removed the videos or privated them or whatever.
Yeah.
The fact that he's pulling stuff is the sign of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that
you don't pull stuff if it's he blocked the law enforcement guy from California who said something to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Do you realize of all the people, the guy with the connections, the guy with, I mean, even if this guy from Cali did not have connections over there, he has the phone number of the guy who does.
Yeah.
Sure.
Direct line. You know.
Yeah.
And technically, we could report him to the FBI too, being that the FBI is the one who deals with cultural resources on a federal level.
Yeah.
The problem is,
isn't Camp Allegheny in West Virginia?
It is, and that was going to be my next point. Is I don't know, like, okay, so he's looting on Camp Allegheny battlefield.
Yeah.
That's Forest Service, isn't it?
Not to mention, doesn't crossing state lines apply here? It's still being federal. He's still doing it in multiple states because he just posted another video not too long ago where he was in Arizona.
I have the video. Do you have that?
No.
Well, and and if he's even near a historic site like a national park or a state park, I know this because I know somebody who's like the site archaeologist for Fort Frederica in St. Simons, Georgia. Personally, I know him personally, and I was down there on a dig, and a site that was not on the Fort Frederica actual site, but it was connected to it, and you can get in trouble for going over to someplace that's just nearby. And so even if he's not going on to, like, say, Allegheny Battlefield itself, if he's going somewhere that is connected to it, he can get in trouble. Because that's what he was doing. He was, that's what the guy I know, he was like telling the people at the church, he's like, hey, if you see people coming, because there was a church near it, if you see people coming onto the site trying to loot it, let me know so I can alert the authorities. You know.
The other thing that I've been trying to remember to say, he hasn't established that he's on pre-recorded sites.
Yeah.
Yes, he might be on private lands, but if those sites are recorded, he's looting sites that already exist within the state database and are protected.
Yeah, because that's what I had to do with my project. Was like we had to, with the project I was most recently on, we had on the map all the like pre-recorded sites, and we had to go because it was for a highway expansion. We had to go make sure that those sites checked out, or like make sure like had they all the artifacts already been excavated by I think they were excavated by a company called New South that's here in Georgia. I don't remember what the lead told me, exactly. But we had to go make sure that those sites had been cleared out, and if not, we had to let DOT know. Luckily, they were, but
Well, the moment that you don't check it is when they find all the stuff that they don't want to deal with.
Well, yeah, we actually found evidence of mining on our walk too. It was a ridiculous walk. Living hell, but we had to do it. It also didn't help that I had a guy who, like, hey, there's a cliff. I'm going to go fucking climb it, is the lead. So,
So isn't it common practice before you go out and survey a site that you would gather the already pre-recorded sites in the area? I mean, like, isn't
you need to do it. That's like
That's the
file
lit search.
search.
Yeah, that's the
like-
lit file search.
yeah,
like, isn't that step number one?
So part of it, but part of that is the monitoring that you have to do.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
For example, this project that I just got done with, there was a site that was not within the boundary of the project, but we were told, like, the next to last day, they're like, hey, we still want you guys to go out there, find the site, and get eyes on it, take the Trimble, and like, get the points so we can use the LiDAR and everything else to actually get a good look at the site. So we had to go outside of the project area to do that. So if there's anything nearby, even if it's not within the project area, yeah.
Anna?
Yeah.
So, like, one thing too is that we were talking about the pre-recorded, like, already known sites. Is I can't remember if it was I was talking with if it was with the Lumbee Tipo, but I think he asked me that, and I said that is what we don't know, right? Is like, how does he know where these sites are? I mean, yeah, we've all done PED surveys. We've all looked around and we've found stuff on the surface, but he just knew inside of this construction site that there was a site.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's possible, I guess, in my head.
He's looking.
Yeah.
He is doing the research to find places.
Yeah.
Me as a professional doing walking out in the field, I am not that lucky.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Especially, get this, when it's underground.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
You can't see that.
So the fact that he seems to kick up quite a lot of fantastic things.
Look, I'm really good at finding rattlesnakes, though.
Yeah. I can.
I'm really good at finding bears.
I can tell you where, like, the chart resources, raw chart resources are within a certain area if I, because I've had to go out and fucking look for them and trudge through everything and get permission from people to go out to get them. But one time we found a site and it was just on accident. We just happened to be walking by and my partner, he looks down and he's like, dang, and he pulls up a point and we put it back, we took photos of it and we're like, oh, okay, well, It's like, now we know.
So I do know that he and at least one of his buddies are using historic maps to find these Civil War era things.
Now those are open access because USGS has topo view on their website that anybody can get to, and you can look at historic maps.
Well, and anyone can access GLO maps on the BLM website too,
as well as the.
How many of those sites have been recorded and coincide with those maps? Because I use them all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know because I'm in Arizona.
Well, my question is
never georeferenced a North Carolina GLO map.
Well, another good thing to look at is because obviously you can find maps in academic papers and in reports and such that are accessible online. So my question now is, how many of them are from academic papers where he found, say, this such and such site in, say, Lincoln County or something like that, and then they have a general map with, say, a road for reference. Now, I mean, in this day and age, with people who were able to literally track down where, if anybody remembers when all the people were trolling Shia LaBeouf and were able to track down the fucking flag he had based off of, flight patterns and shit like that. If people can do that, if you have a name of a road on a map that's used for reference, you can find the goddamn site.
Shit, I recognized one of my followers moving to New Mexico because of a house in the back of their video. And I was like, are you in New Mexico? And she's like, yeah, I'm in southern so-and-so. And I was like, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, about that, I know where that house is.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So, something that Ashley and I talked about the other night was, a lot of people keep being like, oh, he planted those artifacts. And here's the thing. Maybe he did, but I think he's too prideful.
Yeah.
I think he's too prideful.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
The thing is he can't be doing this alone. And in my understanding is people who do stuff like this, they often come in communities and groups. So he's not just going out and finding these places. They're coming to him in suggestions. Other people are showing him these places. It's a group effort when they're doing shit like this.
It is. Yeah. It is. And that's another thing I was going to bring up is he's, probably being told by, I would assume probably somebody who's older. Somebody who, because I had a boss who would do this stuff, and I could never get where he was I told him don't loot, don't do this stuff, and you could never get where he said he was getting all these things he was finding. So of course there was no way for me to ever report him, and he also said that he was getting off of private property. But the point is, he was an older guy, and it's this older generation, and they're passing on to their grandkids. So who knows? It's probably somebody older within his life who's putting them up to it, or at least inspired
that. And if he did volunteer, I'm not going to say work at that museum. If he did volunteer at that, what was it? Do you remember the name of it, Anna?
Wrightsville Beach Museum of History, which they stated in this magazine.
They might have records sitting around.
So he's
crazy.
Using records from the museum to go collect things and take them home illicitly.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
So,
I mean, that's.
Does anybody want to ask them?
Yeah, so
it's actually volunteered there. Are they allowed to divulge that information?
That in this article, if you go to his page, he posted on his
page. Article, but that doesn't mean it's true.
I don't know. Yeah. It said that he was on staff, which is a very specific.
That doesn't really seem like a very fact-checky magazine or whatever.
No.
Are you on staff as a volunteer, or are you on staff as you're employed full-time?
He's 19. He's not employed there full-time unless he's a janitor or something. I'm sorry. That's the nature of it.
If anything, he volunteered because in my high school years and even through my early college years, I would go and volunteer at historic sites, and that's how part of how I built up a lot of connections was going and doing this.
And that's a great way to do it when you're doing it the right way.
Yeah. You know, but of course, now if it's what I think it is, he's doing this to fuel his ability to loot. You know, which of course is, you know, of course, according to Mia, this isn't our lane, despite it being our fucking profession.
Oh, the moment she said that,
I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
That didn't bother me as much as when she was saying archaeologists don't care about this. As a cultural resource management archaeologist, it's literally my job to care about that
our
stuff.
job.
And the other thing that got me was he said in his video that, it had to have been in the comments when somebody had said something about like you should call the the state archaeologist. They were like, literally no archaeologist knows about this place. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Well, no.
But then he does that.
Well, in one comment, that's funny because in one comment he said they know about it, they just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So which is it? We don't care or we don't know?
Yeah,
because one implies we don't actually do shit.
Yeah, I have that.
The other implies we can't do shit because we don't know.
Well, and and it's like in my original video that I responded to him with, I was like, okay, you're claiming that they know and don't care. I was like, the thing is, maybe they know and there's not a reason to dig there or something like that. Because I used to work at the Chief Van House historic site in Chatsworth, Georgia, and I had somebody come in and she was trying to get me because she found out I was an archaeologist, and she's like, "Oh, are you the site archaeologist?" I'm like, "No, I just happen to have an archaeology degree." And she's like, "Well, there's this site that I want you to dig at," and I was having to explain to her. I'm like, "Yeah, well, you need a reason to dig there, and then there's like funding and permits and all this other stuff." And she's like, "Oh, we think there's, Cherokee burials there," and I'm like, "Okay." And then there's that other issue where you have to contact the tribe, and they're probably not going to give you permission unless they want those bodies moved to a different spot or for whatever other extenuating circumstance, and that's very rare. So.
I have two quick things. One, burial permits. A lot of states have their own unmarked and marked burial excavation permits. Arizona has this whole thing: burial discovery agreements, inadvertent discovery agreements, and work just stops.
Yeah.
But you have to have all of these things in place, burial discovery agreements in place, before the ground disturbing even happens.
Yeah.
But my other thing that I was thinking about, I showed Anna, I think, or I told her about it. He was doing night metal detecting at some of these places, sort of thing. So these are situations where there could be archaeologists that are out there monitoring during normal business hours, and he's just going in and undermining that whole system.
Oh yeah, there's a big issue with that in North Georgia.
More illicit stuff.
Yeah.
I brought that up in my video because that's actually a huge security violation of most construction sites, and it's an OSHA violation. A lot of the time, in order to do a lot of stuff, you have to go through certain training. I had a company that literally paid me to do 15 hours of OSHA training to monitor the site.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too that I was saying is that and I personally I've not really worked on construction sites, but even when you're working on an archaeology project, it's kind of treated like a construction site in terms of the liability. So it's like, how the hell is he getting onto construction sites just by asking for permission? And so it's like, do I start contacting big North Carolina construction firms and asking them, are you giving this kid permission?
Yeah. And that's another big issue. Well, and one of the things is, what you were talking about, people monitoring historic and archaeological sites during the day, that's a big issue overall. I was told by an archaeologist, Dr. Honorkamp, who's since retired, but he's like, at Chickamauga Battlefield up at the border of Tennessee and Georgia, at night, they've caught people out there with metal detecting, but with also like night vision goggles, so they can like potentially see the archaeologists coming. Which goes again back. Which goes again back to Endless Search having connections, and I wonder if that's what he's doing.
Maybe. But I've had plenty of projects go on here in Arizona where the sites were broken into overnight by people ransacking, stealing tools, stealing whatever, digging through the back dirt piles and stuff like that. It's unfortunately...
It's one of the things that's not accounted into the budget when they're doing the sites. Like most construction sites don't. You're either allotted for a 24-hour permit, giving you permission to be on the site 24 hours, or you're strictly a night job because of traffic regulations, or you're strictly a day job because of traffic regulations. And most of those budgets will not allow for a night security. You're not just going to sit there and have some, like, even after the accident we had on our highway trip on our highway project in Tahoe, where we're replacing a gas line and somebody died, we had to beg highway patrol to come and sit there and slow traffic down.
Well,
yeah.
It's not a thing.
Yeah. Anna, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and so one thing too I'm wondering is, like, we're talking about how, so he's a part of a group, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It's an archaeology group, and their main goal is to do archaeology on private land. So I don't know if that's where he's getting all of his information. The second thing, he was working on that plantation site. And of course, as you guys know, I asked him, I was like, I'm confused. Why are you working with archaeology, like, professionals then, but not with us, And I think it's because, of course, they were letting him pull out pretty shiny things for his social media. And I'm wondering, did he go back to that site? I'm thinking to myself, did he go back to that site and fucking loot it?
It's possible. Yeah, that is very possible. And that's why looting is such a massive problem. And unfortunately, since the pandemic, it's gotten worse.
Oh, yeah. Preach, brother, preach.
Yeah. And actually, an archaeologist I know that I thought about, like, last minute earlier today, like, inviting, his name's Dr. John Anadino, and I don't know if he's published this yet, but he and I were talking for a YouTube video, and he, in the video, was talking about how he worked at, Daniel Boone National Park, National Forest in Kentucky, and that he found, like, he the second he got on there, he found a whole bunch of loot, evidence of large-scale looting. And so what he decided was, he's like, okay, because he was in CRM for like 30 years or something like that, 20 years. And he's like, okay, so he told the students, like, we're going to treat the loot piles, like the piles where they just piled all the dirt in the process of looting, as, like, test units themselves. And so he's like, we're going to document every layer of that thing. And so he's been trying to sort of, like, reverse engineer looting methodologies and publish that as a way of sort of maybe, like, so archaeologists maybe have a tool to do that. And I don't remember everything he talked about that. That's why I thought last minute about having him on, but I wouldn't have probably wouldn't have been able to get him in time, But so it's become such an issue that he is having to do something like that, Anna, you want to say something?
Question. It just popped in my head because we were obviously already asked about the whole situation where he was selling stuff on Etsy. So what is the implication there? What laws are going to cover or, like, get him if there is in fact proof that because we do have proof of that coin mint, which I saw that and I did not know what it was. So I did not even realize what I was seeing when I saw that. So if he's selling indigenous artifacts.
A few things. For one thing, okay, so let me put it this way, because I found out about this years ago. So to Interpol and the FBI, illegal sale of artifacts and antiquities is the third most illegal thing after smuggling of guns and drugs.
bottom line, though, is that NAGPRA prohibits the sale.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
So there's the illegality, there's the being illegal and like highly against the law by the standards of the FBI and Interpol, and then plus NAGPRA, as well. So, so he's so much things he's doing wrong, and if he's selling them and he's doing it on Etsy where he can leave a goddamn paper trail, it's a thought that maybe let the authorities know that he's claiming to sell actual artifacts, like that. I forget the name of the site, but the site that was like selling little sort of like cases of broken pieces of artifact that TikTok. That every archaeologist and their mother got on top of, including myself.
Yeah,
I was furious.
Unfortunately, it's honestly a thing I see a lot out here. If anybody has ever been to Santa Fe and you walk around some of like the local town center shops, you'll see there's like a shop that I just walked to when I had a friend come to visit me, and you go and they had pottery, and I mean full intact, they fresh dug out of the ground. They had a sign next to it that said 1400 years old. They had a little information card, and they were selling it. And unfortunately now it's already lost all of its provenience, right? We can't get that information back. It's gone. Not to mention, we can't verify whether or not it was taken off private or public land because it's already for sale. So that information isn't there, and nobody's going to sit there and tell me that. So I'm sitting there having a brain aneurysm outside the shop window because I'm seeing pottery for sale, and my friend's like, "What's wrong? Do you want to like call the police or something?" And I'm like, "I can't do anything. It's already been done."
Yeah.
Well, that's why that's why there should be some sort of stipulation that if it's considered possibly stolen, if there's a suspicion that it's been looted off of state or federal land, that it's been taken illegally or whatever, they have to show you where they got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then
it's just like a mule deer.
Yeah. Well, and then of course, another thing that I just now thought about with in the search possibly working at that museum, a big problem that was also involving looting that was coming up during the pandemic was, artifacts going missing from museums.
Oh,
right.
There was an article I read where like basically the curators at the museum were beginning to put like a tag that on their artifacts in ink that only shows up under black light or under certain lights, so that if they suspect it, they can determine what it is. And that's probably what most museums are going to have to do.
It's so sad.
But of course, we can't do that with artifacts pulled up out of the ground on somebody's property or in the fucking woods. But it would be a start to something, So.
And according to what Alexandria just put in the chat, him selling those artifacts is a Class 1 misdemeanor alone in North Carolina. But of course, he probably gets snagged something from the federal government.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
70-51 is what you need to do to get a permit.
Yeah. So it's just. So, yeah, basically everything he's doing is fucking illegal to the nth degree. Yeah. And it's...
Yeah. Because this goes way beyond, I'm digging some holes and finding some coins. Because, I mean, look at us using that investigative nous that got us into this career in the first place.
Yeah.
It's to the point that he's pathological about it, though. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
He's pathological about it, and he's got his white knight thing. I'm saving these artifacts, and a total disregard for the indigenous populations that these artifacts belong to. I don't historic stuff aside.
Well, it's like I mentioned
saving them for his own shelf.
Yeah. Well, it's like I mentioned in the live. the live day, the night before last. He basically sees himself as either like Indiana Jones or fucking Nathan Drake from the Uncharted video games. You know,
I've never played those. I've never seen the movie.
I've
I don't
never-
want to.
but
But I'm sorry, but Indiana Jones was a terrible fucking archeologist.
see,
Yes,
I have a
he
slight
was.
I have a slight contention.
But at
with
least
that.
he punched Nazis.
Well, no,
That's true. Valid.
See, I have a slight contention with that. He's a terrible archaeologist by modern standards. Need I remind you, Heinrich Schliemann, dynamite into Troy. You know,
Right.
See,
Fair
at this
enough.
point, it's like
and then
Fair
all
enough.
the
you bring
all
him
the
up, you
looting
bring
of
up
Native
Schliemann, and I'm
American
like, do I
sites
pour it in the
and
glass or
looting
do
of
I just pour it in the glass?
Egyptian
Just pour it in the glass.
Yeah,
Pour it in the glass.
yeah. But
This
yeah,
is
So-
fancy glass.
yeah, exactly.
So one thing, the jelly jar. So yeah, someone got really weird. It was so funny. You came with the screenshot of the mason jars. Oh my god, people are so nitpicky.
Yeah.
But no, one
Yeah,
thing I
don't
couldn't
get
remember.
that, but
Oh yeah,
whatever.
I couldn't remember what I was thinking of earlier about him saving the artifacts from destruction from this development. And here's the thing: I mentioned this in my live the other night. Development isn't always the worst thing for archaeology. I know it sounds so counterintuitive, but the site that I'm doing my research on for my thesis is a pre-colonial site in the Caribbean, and it was actually built over with a road in the 1600s, and the site was perfectly intact, okay? You want to know what they found 20 centimeters below the surface? A turtle plastron. Do you know what turtle plastron is? Cartilage. That shit does not
Wow.
preserve. So I have this beautifully intact site, and it's because of a road.
Yeah,
You can't tell me that
The travel on
development.
the road. The travel on the road must have got all of the air out of the clay and everything there,
yeah.
pounded
And
it flat,
also-
sealed away.
You know, the road kept animals from burrowing, from trees from burrowing, like with their roots, and just disturbing. You don't get that crotavina and none of that bullshit. And it's like, you can't tell me that development is the worst thing for archaeology.
well,
It's still not
not.
great.
Because when you
But-
look at historic homesteads and you go back and they still have the pads and everything there, you can still see where portions of wherever they settled on top of are still there.
Yeah.
Most of the time, homesteads were on top of, like in portions I've worked in, especially, not most of the time, I'll say where I've worked in, they were usually built on top of already made settlements.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of enhanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but you can, you can, in a lot of cases, actually get all the artifacts out of there in time and document the site. And so if it is built over, you now know
Yeah.
about the site. So,
But the other thing, and this is something, if you guys want it, I'll share it with you.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of those wonderful things of how do you know, or what makes you so smart? I went through a 40-hour work training, of which there is like 6 PowerPoints talking about direct consultation and communication with the tribes about sites on federal land.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things that came about was that sometimes, depending on what it is, tribe doesn't want it saved.
Right.
Yeah.
Doze it up. Let it erode out.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's the natural occurrence of the thing.
Yeah.
So, and then it comes back to his, I'm saving it for everybody. No one is seeing it in his house.
No.
Nobody is going to see it in his house. Nobody is going to have access to it to do research with or anything like that. But the other thing is even if the tribe says let it go, even if it's sitting at the bottom of the lake rusting, these laws are still in place.
Yeah.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And that is a thing that's like, I mean, here's an admission. If I wanted to, I could go out and get some venison steak, not have to pay a dime for it, and nobody would know. It just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And that is one of these things, this cornerstone of the argument, because he's like, well, that just doesn't seem to apply to him.
There's no morals involved.
No. Well, and then also
he doesn't want to give up his shiny stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also he's like,
that is when it comes down to it.
It really
having things.
It really falls down to his finders keepers mentality on that. And the fact that in that article, his mother, I think, gave an interview saying like she fostered this in him since he was a kid.
I mentioned somebody older who's been doing it and passed it on to him. I mentioned that. So there you go.
You did.
But, you know, and the other thing is he's like, well, you know, I have no idea which tribe to contact, and they don't care. And it's like,
look, I have a fucking website, and it'll tell you.
Well, not only that, not only that. As
How
long
can
as
they
you
not
work
care
with
about
the tribe,
something they don't know it's there?
Well, not only that, if you work with the tribe and you're, you know, you can. A lot of times the tribe will be willing to learn, you know, to help you do the stuff. Like my mentor right now is part of a multi-year project to try and make a new museum, and he, you know, for Native American artifacts, and he's working directly with the tribe, and they are helping him try to get it done. You know, so it's like if he just actually, you know, if he was doing it right and was actually working with the tribe, it would be, you know, you can work with the tribe. You just have to actually try to, and he's not even attempting to. You know?
No, in fact, he actually blatantly ignored Native American advice that was like being consulted on in the comments, and that was brought up several times. Like you are blatantly ignoring tribal professional advice and professional archaeological advice. You're telling us that it doesn't matter and that our opinions are not important because you're the expert.
Yeah,
the student is the expert in this instance.
Right? How? Yeah. No. I'm going to go from the beginning of this, from my first interaction with him when he was still in high school.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, kid's only 19 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more of a power grab, and I wanted to circle back to something that Archie Wolf had actually mentioned earlier when he was talking about, like, them not wanting you to really do anything. And that's been in my experience is the tribes that I've worked with, when we find stuff, they tell us to leave it alone, put it back.
Secure in place and protect from the public.
Anna and I have talked about this on, I think, a few lives now and in just together in conversation, where most of the time when we're in consultation with a lot of these agencies, museum and tribal repositories are so full of artifacts they don't want them because they can't handle them. They have no management for them.
It's gotten so bad that I think about a decade ago, the Arizona State Museum was able to accept collections from private land, from federal land, and now they're only able to accept collections from state lands, from Arizona mandated programs.
Wow.
Right, and
they're out of room.
Requirements in order to actually be considered to be looked at, right? Like they probably have to meet extensive more guidelines than they would just for like NRHP classification.
Arizona has pretty stringent requirements for state mandated programs.
Yeah.
But as far with the artifacts, though, it's not just so much that it's, you know, a space issue, which obviously we are seeing on our end. But from what I understand, and this is a very generalization, but to the indigenous people, it's the concept that all of these items that they created came from the earth, and so that they should go back to the earth. Yeah. So we've been seeing here a lot more in California that the tribes, like the artifacts don't even leave the construction site anymore. Like in a lot of cases, the artifacts stay on the construction site and they are put right back into the same ground. Like they do not want these artifacts leaving the construction site to possibly get, you know, lost or mishandled or whatsoever. We do our recordation on site and then everything goes right back in, because that's exactly what they would prefer. They don't want to see this in a warehouse, and they don't want, you know, people just handling this stuff. They just want it put back in the ground.
I have a couple of stories talking about things that disappeared in warehouses that my mentor actually came across. In his time trying to build this new museum.
This happened at Berkeley. They found human remains in a weird, and like just like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's like like Anna, you know the Etowah mounds, right? Anna. Yeah. Okay. So you know at the Etowah mounds, they have those figures that they found. Well, the records show that there were only 2 found. Well, while he was out, because he was working with the Muskogee Nation to try and build a bigger museum for the Etowah Mounds to make it a repository. It's a multi-year plan. Again, the Muskogee Nation is very happy with him doing this. They're working together arm in arm. But, while he was out looking at all the various museums that the artifacts got taken to during the, 1900s through the 1950s and such, he came across another one of those figures that was never recorded. He was like looking through the Smithsonian's repositories, and he came across it, and he's like, this is here.
Why is that here?
Yeah. And he's like, there was only supposed to be 2 of these found. And then of course, and that's another issue, is like the tribes who do want their stuff back, there are still museums that are keeping stuff that one they either don't know about or they know about, and they're not returning them. And that's and again, it's like a lot of tribes, like he's no longer on TikTok, but Navajo Rocks brought this up. He's like, a lot of tribes will work with you because they want to learn more about their history. Right. You just have to actually try to work with them. And that's what's happening here.
I wish I could get a hold of him.
Yeah. So, but that's just
Andy?
one of those things. And it's just
Andy
like,
or something?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to go back to what Archaeomonitor had said earlier about the type of excavation, and that's actually specifically the only excavation that the Conservancy will take place in, and we won't even do it ourselves. We'll hire a firm, and the only excavation that we allow is where you excavate, record, put back, and then backfill.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to remove anything. Nothing gets collected, and it's on oftentimes the request of many of the tribes, but it's become just that's the way that we do it. There's no question about it. Like, you just don't excavate, and they're so focused on non-ground disturbing forms of data recordation. The least amount of excavation that we could do, the better. But then the stuff that we can excavate, that's where we can get together with people and possibly do field schools and actually get legitimate research performed and done by legitimate people attached to universities and have the research legitimized,
So I have a question, Mary and Mandy. So when you do that, because in my head I'm thinking very far in the future, you're doing these excavations and then you're putting the stuff back. Are you putting any kind of obvious marker that this has been disturbed by previous researchers?
No,
okay.
Not in my experience. A lot of the times, if it's a housing development, say, because that's usually what we're monitoring here is a housing development, the native artifacts will usually get put into a park, because that is going to be like you're least likely to get, dug into in the future. And so there are parks here, and we will have bedrock with like mortars or slicks on it in these parks, but there's no signage, there's nothing, because they don't want attention drawn to it. So usually there's nothing indicating like that there's artifacts here at all.
Okay.
I mean, that information's in your reports, though, right?
They go to the state.
Yes, it's in the report. There's usually a map of where everything was and then where it was put. So obviously,
we have GPS
as long
points.
as it's not a site form from the 70s.
Oh my God, those are the best things from the 60s and 70s.
Like,
I've been going through the Conservancy's files. Well, I've been going through the Conservancy's files because they've had the same director for like 40 years. 40 years. And so like we have 8 cabinets, right? Or like 8 drawers in those 4-drawer filing cabinets. And they're like, yeah, all of our potential acquisitions and proposals for new stuff, it's in those cabinets. And we're like, but wait a second. Aren't those the filing cabinets that have all of the projects that we already have and own? They're like, yeah, they're mixed in together. And I was like, 40 years worth of acquisition. Some of this shit is still on the rolled fax paper that they would then collate and fold up so that way it was together. We have like the trace papers. It's fantastic going through some of this stuff.
I worked for the Western Archaeology Conservation Center here in Tucson. They're the Intermountain West National Park Service repository. Man, some of those records from archaeologists doing shit in the 1960s, like literally talking about how pretty the sky is that day. And
I know.
Oh my god.
Or
their land descriptions are phenomenal.
Well,
land descriptions are phenomenal. What'd you find? Flakes.
Yeah. I ran into that for a paper I'm about to publish, and I was like looking for a citation by the guy who had originally done the original excavation at the site that's part of my project, and I find it, and I'm like, okay, so what was the context of stuff? And it's just an interview that he gave, and they asked, well, what did you find there? He's like, oh, I found some dark chert and a few pieces of pottery. That's it. That's all he mentions. And I'm just like, okay, like, no test unit, no like, excavation unit, no level.
At least you
like,
did one cell.
like, like, nothing, like,
like, site datum.
Yeah.
The white truck.
Yeah.
Land formation.
Well, I wish he would have had that, because I didn't even have that.
Pine tree.
Pine tree.
Yeah, he mentioned the.
Have you ever been to Montana?
Yeah,
I have not. I've only done permitting.
Let me tell you something about pine trees here.
Yeah.
So cultural trees.
Yeah.
When you have somebody who sees cultural trees in every single tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So when I was working at a Mississippian site here in Illinois, near Peoria, and it wasn't when I was there, but I actually had to go through all of the like site reports, and I actually digitized all of them, including the ones that I was a part of for this past field season. But for 2019, they had these like folding camp chairs, just for like, they would all sit around and eat lunch, Well, somebody came and stole their chairs. So in the site like report for that day, like that day recording, it goes, well, we got to site today and somebody stole our camp chairs. Bummer.
Bummer.
And I just think about somebody reading that in the future, because I thought it was hilarious, like reading through that as like a third party who wasn't there that year,
Yeah.
Reminds me of like those ancient graffitis where it's like that one with the guy who wrote it really high, and it's like in some like, I don't know,
Norse in Futhark or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, this is really high.
It's in Hagia Sophia, and it says Halfdan was here.
Halfdan was here.
There's an archaeologist that has spent a lot of time doing the documentation around this area here in the late 80s or late 70s, 80s, early 90s. And I found one, it's all handwritten, where it reads almost like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And it's like trekking the ridgeline for 7.5 hours, talking about all of these things that's going to kill him because the vehicle lacked the power to get up the mountain.
How did you sound like an Austin Powers character right there?
I know. That was the point. But it's like, what did he find? Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the report. It's all an inventory. So it's like, I didn't find anything. But at the same time, he was in another report he wrote. I was looking at it. I'm reading it. I'm like, okay, well, this site's gone. Because we had a site that was completely destroyed. There was no reason to keep it around. It was historic mining. But 30 yards away, associated with that mining project are all these massive tailing piles that go down the ditch from like the 1870s. He didn't record any of them. And it's like, why weren't these recorded? So every single inventory in that area didn't record them.
I had a quick question, because I'm probably going to hop off in a few minutes. Yeah. I know Mandy's going, but is anyone else here going to the SAAs in Portland by chance?
I will not be able to make it.
Are they again?
I want to.
No.
I want to. I have a choice of if I'm going to try to go something, it's either go to that or because I'm told that I need to go. I'm friends with Norst Forge in Salisbury, and he's like, Last Blade Standing.
Oh no.
Season 3 is being done the end of February.
Oh.
And the whole big shindig is that. So it's like, I have a choice, go to one or go to the other. But I think I should probably go to the SAAs because I've never been to a conference.
Never?
I've never been to one either.
I've got to work.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm broke.
Money.
Yeah,
I'm stupid broke. I'm stupid broke, and I have a disease called cars. And my wife has a disease called horses. So I has no money.
Mm-hmm.
One of my old coworkers he buys and restores vintage cars from like the 1920s, 1930s kind of thing.
Cool.
His wife doesn't like it. If you buy another car, you're sleeping with the dogs.
Oh, my wife and I have an agreement. If she gets another horse, I get another car.
My husband's got a thing. My husband's got a thing with like he wants an 80-inch television, and I'm like, fine, you can get one of those. I'm getting more dogs.
The animal thing. I live in a zoo. I'm just gonna say that I live in a zoo.
This is one of my monsters.
Oh,
baby.
Dog.
Okay, so as far as next steps, Dane, are you gonna contact the school? Is that your plan?
Yeah, that's my plan. My plan is to sometime in this week to contact the school. And if you said you have the professor's name, can you send me that information?
Yes, I'll put that in the chat right here.
Okay, and Anna's already been in contact and is in contact with a few people. So the museum, is that like another one that we want to contact?
Yeah, that might be.
I think so.
I think.
Okay, I can take
the best idea.
I can take that, and I know Archaeowolf, you said you were maybe going to contact a sponsor, maybe if you want.
I can send a thing to the the sponsor. Well, that's the thing. Is he actually sponsored by these guys, or is he just?
Oh, I don't know.
Is he faking it until he makes it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think he is. I think it's kind of like an affiliation thing where you know how you listen to a podcast and they'll say, go to this like website and use our code and like it helps us, they get a little bit of money. That link that he has on his TikTok has the name Endless. So I think it's like an affiliation where he probably, if someone uses that link to buy something, he gets like 10% of the sale or something.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
The only affiliate they have on their page is somebody named Tool Gardener.
Yeah.
A professional metal detector out of Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I think the next course of action would be, contact the professor, contact the museum, contact, continue talking with the tribes, because there's the Lumbee, but there's also, like I said, the Tuscarora, the Emissary,
I'm in contact with the Lumbee, the Waccamaw-Siouan, as well as the Kohari. I have tried calling the EBCI, the Eastern Band of Cherokee, several times. Their number just isn't going through for 4 of their numbers.
Contact information for the North Carolina, what was North Carolina?
Like Cultural Resources, Bureau of Indian Affairs.
No, not that one.
I'll have to look, but I may at this point, I might try to call again tomorrow to the Cherokee because it's just a lot easier to tell them what's going on over the phone and then move on to an email.
Well,
because
something I'm going to say, while they are not in North Carolina, they still have ancestral ties to it. You might want to, if that doesn't work, call the Cherokee Nation and the United Kiowa Band.
Well, I just found the Cherokee Agency on the U.S. Department of Indian Affairs for North Carolina. I put it in the chat for you guys, and you can go from there. And it looks like they've got some contact information there.
Yeah.
And actually, the Bureau of Indian Affairs might have contact information for any other tribes in the area.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so they have Cherokee, Choctaw, and Seminole according to their website here.
Yeah. Exactly. Because, there's also the Catawba. The Catawba have connections to North Carolina also. I think I remember somebody in the live on TikTok mentioning the Powhatan also, the various tribes that are descended from the Powhatan tribe. The Confederacy might be a good look as well.
I just sent a link that I've been kind of basing it off of from what someone else sent me who has information, and that is where I got all the information as I can get to their websites. And like I said, there's 4 phone numbers for the chief, the vice chief, the council, and then one other thing for the EBCI, and they just won't answer. So again, I'll try again tomorrow. If not, I'll just email and hope. And
yeah, exactly. Because I have an off day tomorrow, so I think tomorrow is when I'll call that professor. So, but yeah, but I think those are our best next course of actions. Other than, like I said, I'm recording this video, I'll put it on YouTube, and I'll share it to all of you.
Minus that one little sliver where we accidentally name dropped, right?
Yeah, minus that one little sliver.
All right, I'll hunt that down.
Sorry about that.
No, I'll have to
That was my bad. I just some stuff I just don't know right off the top of my head, and you guys know so much more than me sometimes. So I just was curious.
So,
my bad.
Well, we kind of went on a few tangents, so maybe we could just put clips of the best stuff onto YouTube.
I apologize for my unmedicated ADHD.
I think we all did it.
100% my bad. Yeah, sorry about it.
No, that's fine.
Constant getting up and doing stuff around the house with the animals in the background. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. But yeah, we'll all get that done, and like I said, in the next few days, I'll have this probably put up on YouTube tomorrow, and I'll share to all of you the clip, and then it'll probably take me a few days to, trim stuff down for TikTok and such like that. So, and then, like I said, tomorrow I'll hunt down that part where y'all name dropped that company, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So it'll take a little time, but not too much,
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, so yeah, y'all have a good night, and we'll, like I said, we'll pursue these courses, and such, and and then also every now and again I do contact archaeologists to interview them about their work on my YouTube channel. So if any of y'all are interested in that. So, yeah.
I actually would like to get with you and talk about the Conservancy because I'm trying to do more outreach. So you and Archaeologists, especially considering you're up in Montana and stuff, we have a couple sites up there that need to do some work on, and we need to look for some.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything right now. If you'd like to send me that way, I will.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, well, yeah, I would, love to interview you about that stuff, Mandy.
Yeah.
I'll message you. Just message me what days work best for you, and Archaeo Wolf, if you want to talk about your work and anyone else, feel free, just let me know what days work for y'all. So.
The ones that end in Y.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
I've got a lot of ideas for collaboration, you know, and I'm kind of very grateful that I have you guys for like talking to and bouncing ideas off of, because it's nice having a sounding board of like-minded people kind of in different regions to kind of get a visual of what it's like to see archaeology across the states. No,
it really is so different everywhere.
It really is. And like I've worked in 3 separate regions now, and I've experienced it in my own work just in the few like 4 or 5 years I've done archaeology. And then to continue to hear the stories, it's just it's kind of fun. Well, I've really enjoyed it.
For example, here in the Southeast, because we just have at the company I work at, we have a girl who worked in California, and we do test pits here where it's like, 30 centimeters or more down in a circle or a square. And that's not...
I have never dug a shovel test pit in my life.
Yeah.
Consider yourself lucky. They're fine. They're...
I worked one job where they're like, we're going to dig shovel tests. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was in Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh my God, I was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now you betcha, don't you know?
No, but yeah, we do that here, and so it's like it could be any like every 20 paces, every 20 meters, every 30 meters.
We did 186
in the Cascades in Oregon. They do them tests 10 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Washington State.
Yeah, and then like I said, you work with a guy who your lead is a fucking mountain goat. He calls himself that, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna scale that cliff," and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go around, Or one time,
I literally just pictured a talking mountain goat in my head.
I'm not making this up. There was one time where like we had climbed up this embankment, this like 15-foot, 20-foot tall embankment to get to the spot we needed to be. And there was a ditch to the highway, and we get done, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to hop over the fence down into the ditch. And I'm just like, I'm going to go take the way we just took that was short and, not so much. And he's just like, okay, suit yourself. And he just walks over and then jumps over the fence. And I'm just like, and all 4 of us who were saying, they were like, yeah, we're going this way.
Go around, yeah.
But then again, he's also crazy because he stuck his head in a possible bear den.
Oh.
No, thank you.
Oh. I know a guy who did one worse. He's a hill climber too, climbing cliffs. We were having lunch, and he's like, "I'm gonna go climb the cliff over there," which is 100 yards away. Fine, don't die.
Yeah.
He was trying to reach the eagle nest that was on the cliff face.
So what was he?
I don't know if you've actually seen a golden eagle up close.
Yeah.
I imagine terrifying.
Was it that scene from Almost Heroes where Chris Farley keeps getting attacked by the eagle as he's trying to steal the eggs?
Man, I've seen that a long time. But she was screeching, and we didn't put 2 and 2 together. I'm surprised he didn't get raked.
Well, and that's. Yeah. Well, and that's what,
He's also the guy that jumped out of the truck to chase a moose.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Because...
Okay, well, I'll contact the museum. I'm going to get going.
I'll contact the professor and such.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, like I said, Mandy will be in touch about, you coming on my YouTube to talk about your conservancy and such,
Does anybody...
I'll let you guys know.
Get in touch with anyone? Does anybody want me to take anything on?
I'll let you know, Mandy. I'll text you because I might. Yeah. I'm already with some tribes right now and with the state archaeologists. I'm waiting for a response. I was told that their office is relatively understaffed, so I'm trying to be patient. I might call tomorrow, though.
Yeah.
So, no worries. I'm always here for moral support.
Yeah, and I think Archaeowolf, you said you had contact with law enforcement there, didn't you? You said that.
I know somebody commented and sent me a message on TikTok that they've sent it that way. I can communicate with him a little bit more and say.
Yeah, that might be a good idea to try and determine what law enforcement wise it can be done. So.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right, we all have good night.
Who should I send that video to of actually pulling the gun out of the holder?
Can I send it to me just so I can watch it?
Me too, and I'm gonna send it off to John Mintz as well because that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.
You too.